Vicki Friedman, and I'd like to talk a little bit with you today about my book, The Caregiver in You. I'd like to share what I put in the preface because that's where I state why I wrote the book, who it's for, etc. And I think that would be the most meaningful thing at this point. You are the child, parent, spouse, grandchild, sibling, close relative, or a friend of a loved one who is temporarily, critically, or terminally ill. You are a caregiver. This guide is dedicated to you. I hope these thoughts and illustrations will accompany you on a loving, healing path to your own well-being. You may not be aware how powerfully the tasks of caregiving can take their toll on your day-to-day living. You may be so engrossed with the experiences of your loved one that you neglect to be realistic about how your own life is being affected. The impact can be strikingly hard, and can leave you bewildered, fatigued, frustrated, guilty, and angry. While you are in the caregiving experience, you may be struggling to keep yourself above the lifeline when everything tells you you are slipping below it. This book gently guides you through a number of thought processes designed to bring about greater peace. Each suggestion is accompanied by an illustration that makes it more poignant and meaningful. You can gain the courage to dedicate attention to yourself along with your loved one. You can gain a better understanding of your personal boundaries. Mostly, this book is about giving yourself permission and acceptance. Many of the ideas expressed here are ones I realized after surviving the pain and anxiety of several caregiving experiences. I now believe the truth to be that we do have a great deal of say in our own self-preservation. We just think we don't, or we shouldn't, or we can't. We view ourselves through our guilt, our fears, or others' eyes. We manufacture every excuse not to care for ourselves instead of comprehending that this is the time to love ourselves the most. Much of my professional career guided me in the direction of addressing the spirit of the caregiver. I graduated with a master's degree in art education and taught art for several years in Queens, New York. I then stopped work to raise our son while I continued to create and sell my artwork. After a move to Pennsylvania, I became a program and development director at the York Jewish Community Center, where I was responsible for art activities, fundraising events, and adult and senior adult programming. It was here that I learned much from my elderly friends about many aging matters that greatly affected them and their families. My next position was at York Hospital, where I was a development coordinator, raising funds for community health initiatives, in particular a cancer patient health fund. In this capacity, I gained a greater awareness of how illness can impact a family's emotional and financial status. After more than 10 years combined experience at these positions, I became the development director for Olivia's House Grief and Loss Center for Children, where I truly broadened my understanding of some of the consequences of illness, caregiving, and death. My work has been coupled with a great deal of personal experience. I was my father's caregiver for 10 years until he passed away at age 91. While he lived a long and relatively healthy life, I was with him as his eyesight, hearing, and mental capacities diminished. When he could not drive, I left work to take him to all of his doctor appointments and to be by his side when he was not feeling well. The most difficult part was watching him watch himself as his physical and mental capacities declined. He often became depressed and agitated. I never thought of myself as a caregiver at the time. It was something I did because I loved him. However, I forgot to apply a little love to myself in the process. The sorrow of seeing him fade and the stress and the guilt I felt about trying to manufacture more time to be with him took a tremendous toll. My sister and I were with him when he left the earth and left us with deep feelings not only of love, but loss, confusion, and guilt as well. Shortly afterward, my sister, who lived in Florida with her husband, suffered from progressive liver disease. Although I spoke to her frequently, I did not visit her as often as I should have. It was difficult watching my dear brother-in-law handle all that was involved with her affliction, and it was challenging not to interfere. The last time I saw her, she was in a coma, hooked up to an indeterminate number of machines and wires. She passed away within a few days at age 64. The pain was unbearable, and I know now that some of my distress and frustration was not only due to the fact that I did not visit her enough. It was also due to the fact that I was not her primary health advocate. That realization and understanding the challenging circumstances it created was another huge learning experience. Finally, in 2009, my husband of 41 years was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. There ensued an 8-month period of caregiving, followed by his death at age 63. This period of time almost put an end to me as well. This work in personal history led me to deeply believe that something more had to be done. It took me over 4 years to assess the ingredients in the potpourri of guilt, anger, fatigue, isolation, confusion, and fear that enveloped me. As I began the journey to address the fallout, I realized I was not alone in these feelings. I could recognize the telltale signs in many of my friends, colleagues, and family members who were undertaking caregiving experiences. Out of love for them and myself, this project evolved. The spiritual illustrations I created and present here are not connected to any religious belief system. No matter what your path, chances are at some time or other, you may have thought about angels as lucky, or as guardians, or as messengers. It is in this light that they are expressed symbolically in the following pages of my book. If they bring you to a greater state of peace, then they will have served their purpose. This book is a guide to your own self-protection while the storm is raging. It is about digging deep to find the faith in yourself that will allow the better angels of your nature to emerge.